All right, welcome to another episode of Blue Bloods College Game Time. B. Holmes, my man, we had a crazy week 2 of college football, but before we get into it, I am Trey Smith.
I'm Brandon Holmes. Welcome to Blue Bloods College Game Time, a podcast for the fans, by the fans. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, share, leave a comment, leave a review, all those things. And welcome back. Week 2 in college football, week 3 of college Blue Bloods. And Trey, it was an amazing weekend of college football. It never disappoints.
I love college football. I mean, I can't help it. I love college football.
It's good for the soul, man. It's like Campbell soup. Good for the soul.
So here's what we're going to do. We're just going to go a quick run around the nation. Okay, we're going to do a quick score report. We're going to go around the nation and just update everybody before we get to our first segment, which we actually had a couple mailbag questions coming in. We're only going to get to one this week, but let's go through. Tell us what happened in the ACC this week, B.
Man, well, ACC, was a kind of interesting weekend for them. Clemson was back on top after their big showdown with Georgia last week, where they swiped through South Carolina State, which should have been an easy win. Virginia Tech followed up a big doozy win over North Carolina with a win over Middle Tennessee State. The one that had me on the fence, and I almost picked the upset on this, was Miami versus Appalachian State. They squeaked it out in the end. I was kind of hoping for a little Appalachian. I have like a little affinity for them, man. Those who grew up in our era, like they were some dominant teams for Division I AA, and they were known for beating FBS teams every year. So
yeah, like Michigan.
Michigan, yes. Let's not
put
talk
them on
about
the
that.
map.
Yeah, we're gonna keep going. Anyways, Virginia, man, way to show up. I think their quarterback had like 5 touchdowns against Illinois. The Brett Bielema train is slowly crashing. This was a game I really enjoyed. Pittsburgh beating Tennessee. Tennessee had former Michigan transfer Joe Milton. Love to see Joe do well, but you kind of have it in. You're like, you left blue. We wanted to see.
He actually
lose.
went out in that game, though. He hurt.
He did with the injury. Yeah, I saw that. I mean, but he shouldn't have been in that position. He overthrew like 4 touchdowns, man.
I know.
But shout out to Joe
Milton. He hit one that was a dime, though. I don't know if you saw that one.
I did, and the guy dropped it. It was amazing.
Well, there was one that hit, and he caught it. It was great. He just stepped right up in the pocket.
If he could figure
or
out
maybe
the
he dropped it, and I didn't
man.
pay enough attention to the video.
Yeah, I just say if he could figure out the accuracy thing, Joe Milton's an NFL quarterback, man, by far. But accuracy is everything. And then, obviously, Boston College, they beat up on the UMass team. Rutgers beat up on Syracuse, nice Big Ten win. And I think this is probably the most notable one. Florida State gave up another close loss to not only perennial powerhouse Jacksonville State.
We'll be getting into that a little later.
Absolutely, man. So that's kind of what went down in the ACC. I think you have something over there from is it the SEC?
I'm gonna hit the SEC real quick. We had let's see. I got the SEC scores pulled up, but it's giving me everything but the SEC. All right, so we had Bama took care of business at Mercer. I mean, you heard me say it last week. You're not beating Bama. I mean,
you're not beating Bama.
You're not going to. Georgia whooped up on UAB 56-7. I'm sorry, that Alabama over Mercer 48-14. A&M, man, now you talk about a nail biter. They had a scare at Colorado, but they were able to get a touch there at the end. They lost their quarterback in the process. I think he went out early in that game.
Yeah.
That was a pretty low-scoring but exciting game. They ended up winning 10-7. That could have been a huge top 5 upset for Colorado. Florida took care of South Florida 42-20. Ole Miss put it on Austin Peay 54-17. Auburn over Alabama State 62-0. South Carolina squeaked one out against East Carolina 2017. I caught the tail end of that on my third screen of college football I had rolling yesterday. Of course, you already mentioned Pittsburgh, Tennessee. Mississippi State beat NC State. They returned the opening kickoff in that game, I believe, for a touchdown. They won 24-10. Kentucky in a tight conference game against Missouri, pulled that one out 35-28. LSU over McNeese 34-7. And then Vanderbilt squeaked one out against Colorado State. I think they were at Colorado State 24-21. And then, and we'll be talking about this later when we get to the Week 2 breakdown, Arkansas, baby. The Razorbacks over Texas 40-21. That's all I'm going to say about that game right now because I got a whole little spiel for a little bit later in this episode. So, all right, man, take us over to the Big Ten, is it?
The good old Big Ten, man. Yeah, the good old Big Ten, man. We started the day off right, and I'm not going to go too hard on this because you know I'm talking about this earlier. Oregon beat the Ohio State University. I think they should have throttled them personally, but we'll save that for later. Hey, man, the biggest surprise, well, it's not really a surprise. I say this every year. Either it's Northwestern or Iowa is going to surprise you in the Big Ten. And this year it's Iowa. Man, they beat up your favorite team in America, Iowa State Cyclones. Beat them 27-17. Penn State, man, bounced back again.
But they got game day, so.
They got game day, man. They'll talk about that forever. Matt Campbell's never beat Iowa, so I don't know if I want him in Michigan anymore. But Penn State beat up Ball State 44-13. Wisconsin bounced back from that game for Penn State 34-7. Virginia, like I said before, beat up on Illinois 42-14. The Fighting Mel Tuckers of Michigan State, man, whooped up on Youngstown State 42-14. I'm nervous. These guys look for real. Even though Youngstown State is FCS, those dudes are playing with a chip on their shoulder. Minnesota, great way to come back, 31-26 over Miami, Ohio. Northwestern, 24-6 over Indiana State. Rutgers beats Syracuse. Purdue beats UConn, which, I mean, it's UConn, 49-0. Nebraska, man, coming back. 2 games in a row. Beat Buffalo, 28-3. Indiana, 56-14. Maryland, man, that's my sleeper pick in the Big Ten this year. I think they're going to upset some people. 62-0 over Howard. And my boys in blue on primetime television beat up UW 31-10. I mean, I'm going to say a little something about that later, but, man, that was – if you saw my Twitter rant last night, I'm feeling better, guys. Y'all will hear me later, but yeah, man, the Big Ten had a great day in some football. And I think we're going to finish up with the Big 12, man. What's going on over there in the lackluster Big 12?
Hey, before I go Big 12, what you said Maryland was your sleeper pick. Tua's brother is there, correct?
Yeah.
Is the quarterback?
Whatever his name is, Talia. Yeah, man, he's balling now. He's definitely a different player than Tua. He has more of a, backyard quarterback type of mentality. Mike Loxley, man, was the former OC over there at Bama.
Right.
And, man, they are turning. I think, and he's been able to still win some recruiting battles over there in Maryland and try to put a fence around the DMV area, which has some great talent. And so I think I'm not saying they're going to win the Big Ten this year, but I'm saying they are going to give some people a run for their money. They're no longer like a team you can just, we're about to play Maryland. No, you need to come prepared against Maryland.
Right. So, so that's current Miami Dolphin quarterback, former Alabama quarterback Tua. His brother is the starting quarterback over there at Maryland for you casual football fans that may not know that. All right, so let's get to the Big 12, the conference that's soon to no longer be a conference, which we're actually about to get into.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. So we've got Coastal Carolina absolutely pounded Kansas on the Friday night game. Here's how bad Kansas has fallen. I had that game on. I wasn't watching the game. I had the game on. I think any football fan or sports fan understands the difference in watching a game and having the game on. So I had the game on. And when I peeked over at the TV to see the score, I noticed it was like maybe 10-10, 10-7. Like it was a close game. And in my mind, I'm going, gosh, what's going on with Coastal Carolina? That's where Kansas is in my brain. Here's the Power 5 team that's keeping it close with a Group of 5 team, even though it's a very good Group of 5 team. And I'm going, well, what's wrong with the Group of 5 team? So, and here's a little teaser before we get to basketball season. But I'll tell you what, with all this conference shakeup, if I'm Kansas, I'm taking a hard look at going independent and then having my basketball team join the Big East. That's just a quick little that's a little cliffhanger for you when we get to basketball season, because I've got an argument for that. And right now, when we do our second tier basketball blue bloods, I could probably pull 3 tier 2 blue bloods for basketball in the Big East right now. That's all I'm going to say on that.
I'm interested about that. Okay.
Basketball season, we will revisit that. OU was in a real nail biter with Western Carolina. They squeaked it out 76-0. You talked about Iowa State. Talked about Arkansas, Kansas. Oklahoma State won by 5 against Tulsa, 28-23. TCU won a close game against California, 34-32. West Virginia, that West Virginia game came down to that last possession. Thankfully, they were able to pull it out 66-0 over Long Island University. Same for Baylor, 66-7 over Texas Southern. Kansas State, 8-point game, 31-23 over Southern Illinois. And then Texas Tech, 6-point win, 28-22 over Stephen F. Austin. I mean, listen to all of those Big 12 scores and how many of those were close against either FCS or Group of 5 teams, which really, B. Holmes, leads me. And by the way, we're not going to do a rundown of the Pac-12. I think any Pac-12 game of significance we already discussed from the other conferences.
Yeah, we've seen them. We've talked about them.
And this kind of leads into our mailbag, which is we had 2 questions. The first one was from our boy Danny Chesser. Shout out
Danny Chesser, man.
Yeah, man. He hit us up
back.
Yeah, we do go back.
We go back with Danny.
I'm glad he's listening, man. I was excited to see him sending us a mailbag. And basically his question was, what do we think of OU Texas joining the SEC 2025? We're going to talk about that one. The other question we got, which we're not going to talk about on this episode, but I think we're going to wait a week and maybe next week, is this the year the Pac-12 makes some noise in the college football playoff? And I think there's some quality discussion to be had there, but let's give it one more week for that.
Yeah, let's get to week 3 in the season.
With that being said, you just heard the Big 12 scores. We all saw what Arkansas did to Texas last night. So, B. Holmes, kick this off. What are your thoughts on Texas and OU joining the SEC?
You know, I'm when I originally heard the news, at first, I'm not even going to lie, I panicked a little bit. I was like, oh, my goodness, the SEC is getting stronger. What is the Big Ten going to do? Everyone knows. If you don't know, if you're a first-time listener, I'm a big Big Ten guy. And so, you know, I started doing all this research about what the Big Ten should do to kind of counteract what the SEC was going to do, right? And I have a whole argument on that, and I think we can get into that in a later episode on what I feel like the Big Ten should have done in the midst of that, which I still think they can do. But my feelings on that is it's this, Trey, it's my biggest beef with Texas. I'll at least give OU this. OU's going to be competitive every year. They're going to have a shot to make the playoff every year. They're going to now their defense is always going to be their Achilles heel, right? But we know OU, when they're rolling, they can put points up with anybody. No question about it.
They've been owning the Big 12 for
years.
I
feel like
2
decades now. It feels like almost. I look at Texas, man, and I think Texas has a little bit of what I call sometimes the Michigan syndrome. They're so hyped up on who they used to be that there's no really who they are now. And so, I mean, we remember, man, they hired Tom Herman. He was supposed to be that dude.
The savior.
It didn't work. Yeah, he was just saying it didn't work out. You bring in Sark, who I'm not really sold on Sark anyways, but I guess we'll see. And I think they just got a reality check last night playing your boys down there in Fayetteville and seeing, man, the SEC is no joke. Like, the SEC is prepared to bring a whooping to them every week. And all I'm saying is I don't think it's a good move. I think Texas should stay in the Big 12 because what you just showed last night, if you're trying to recruit kids to come and play for you now that you're going to the SEC, is I hope you guys are going to be okay going 6-6 every year. I hope you guys are going to be okay going 7-5 in a good year, in a very good year. Because as much as people want to talk about maybe the bottom tier, the middling tier of the SEC, the middle tier of the SEC just proved Texas is not ready to hang. So I don't personally like the move for Texas. For me, a smarter move for them would have been possibly to try to go to the Big Ten, maybe the Pac-12, but definitely the Big Ten, especially for revenue source, because we know it's a money move, and the Big Ten has the highest revenue deal out of all the Power 5 conferences. So we know it's a money move, and I think you probably could have been a little bit more competitive in the Big Ten. So I think Texas is just gearing up for like another decade of mediocrity, personally.
Did you say the Big Ten's payout per school is higher than the SEC? Because I thought the SEC had the highest.
No. Big Ten has them edged out by like 8 to 9 million.
Because I know the SEC, everyone gets the same amount. So like that's what makes it attractive. Is like Arkansas, for example, who, as our Iowa State media guy referenced as the SEC whipping boy the past few years, which that's fair. I mean, we have been. Fine. Right. But our revenue share is the same as Bama. So that's kind of what makes it which I know is around 40-something mil. I didn't realize the Big Ten was
the
out
Big
doing
Ten is
that
around
already.
like 50. It's like 53 mil. It's a pretty high revenue. That was a big attraction why Maryland wanted to come over and Rutgers wanted to come over. You're getting a lot of money coming to because the Big Ten really started the Big Ten Network, and that was like the thing that transcended the game for them. And that we know revenue is everything, right? These people don't care about wins; they care about money.
No,
money. So I think that would have been more attractive. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Man, that's good content right there, B. Holmes. That's why I listen to Blue Bloods College Game Time, and I'm a co-host. So here's my thoughts. And I'll keep it brief so we can get into our week 2 recap. But
yeah,
I do think you can look at the model or the template of Texas A&M, and I've got 2 sides to this coin. Okay, my first side of the coin is Arkansas used to own A&M when they were in the Big 12 as well. And now, granted, that was an era where Arkansas football was also very competitive in the SEC to the point where we were a game away from playing in the national championship. When we were number 3, LSU was number 1 when they had the Honey Badger, the last game of the season. They ended up blowing us out, but that was like in recent history, that was Arkansas's chance to play for a national title. So I understand that, but we still owned A&M, I want to say 3 or 4 years in a row while they were still in the Big 12. Then they come over to SEC, and people are saying the same thing. Man, y'all can't even compete with Arkansas. Like, what makes you think you're going to come in, compete with Bama, LSU, yada, yada, yada? And then literally their first year, Johnny Football takes off. They beat Alabama that year. They win 11 games. And then they kind of settled in. That Sumlin era, to your point, was more of a 6-8 win, but then they got Jimbo over there. So I think that there's a case to be made that by joining the SEC, it will enhance the firepower they're able to attract. But I guess the other argument on the other side of the coin is Texas doesn't have a problem attracting talent. Their problem has been developing these guys they get in. I mean, think about how many 5-star recruits they bring in. How many of them have translated to first-round draft picks? Very, very little, if any at all, compared to like Urban Meyer at Ohio State, right? And so I also wonder if now that OU and Texas are joining A&M in the same conference, will they all 3 now start to cannibalize each other somewhat because they all have that SEC sales pitch? And that's why obviously A&M was so disappointed and kind of felt betrayed, right? Because there was this gentleman's agreement that no other Texas school would get into the SEC. Kind of felt like they went behind their back, brought Texas in. Now they're bringing in OU. Here's the bottom line, though, on how I think this plays out for everybody. It's all going to depend on how they pod the league. Whether they do 2 divisions like they have now, but they make it north-south, or there's been some talk about podding it where there's pods of 3 or 4 teams, and then they kind of do a round robin as to who they play from the other pods. But they have the same 3 teams they play every year. So if you put OU, A&M, Texas, and Arkansas in the same pod, that's going to generate a lot of media attention. That's going to generate a lot of money. And I'll be honest with you, I kind of like Arkansas in that pod. Now, that's someone who hasn't beat A&M in almost a decade. However, I just think if Texas and OU now have the same competitive advantage in recruiting that A&M has as far as being in the SEC, I don't know. I think that but I also think that pod could work in Texas's favor. It could work in OU's favor.
True.
But I mean, if you stick either one of those teams in a pod with LSU, Alabama, and Florida, not that would geographically make any sense at all, but if you did, I mean, it's a mistake as far as I'm concerned.
I have a bold prediction about that, man. Not to cut you off.
Let's go.
Here's my bold prediction. And I've been sitting on this. I've been thinking about it all weekend. This is what I believe will happen. I believe, and this is where Texas comes back. And, man, if this happens, man, just call me a guru, a prophet, whatever you believe in. Call me that.
We got it on wax right here.
We have it on wax. I believe this, Trey. I believe Urban's not going to work out in Jacksonville. He's not an NFL guy. and he's on record saying this, there's only a few schools he would coach at: Ohio State, Notre Dame, SC, and UT. I don't think Sark makes it past maybe year 3 at the latest, and they go poach Urban because he's a way better. He says he doesn't like recruiting, but he doesn't even have to recruit anymore. He's a way better college coach. He comes to Texas, and he brings them back. That's my bold prediction, man.
That's a bold prediction. And to your point about the recruiting, at that point, when you're that guy, you're saving. You're not recruiting. You're closing. That's it. You're not recruiting. You're closing guys. You're sitting down with them in your office on their visit and closing them. You're not actually going places. And, man, that's interesting.
I think it's possible, man.
Yeah.
I don't, because I read the whole article on how Saban ended up at Bama, which, goodness gracious, Rich Rod, it's all your fault, because if you would have went to Bama, maybe Michigan gets Saban, and, man, we become Alabama. But
man,
I just don't see Urban really working in the league, and he's the type of guy, man, where he has to coach. It's in him. Like, he has to do it. He tried to be an analyst, and I think he hated it. You know, it's the itch to get back on the sideline, right? Now, everyone talks about it's his health. It's like, no, Urban just has to learn balance. Once he learns balance in his life, I think he can realize he can do the thing he wants to do. And what I feel like he's called to do is be a college football coach. I see it happening, man. I could see him at Texas.
Yeah, I think it really just comes down to what you said, is how well he does at Jacksonville, because he has to coach, but he also has to win. He's not going to stay somewhere where he's losing for very long. Okay. No. Here's I'm not going to call this a bold prediction, but I'll just call this my prediction of how, once this move takes place, 1, I think it happens sooner than 2025. And then 2, I think that the Big 12 replaces the Pac-12 as the afterthought of the Power 5.
Oh, yes.
1, because they will be a weaker conference. 2, the Pac-12 is trending upwards right now. Not as a whole, but no conference as a whole. I mean, but what do you look at? You look at the top tier teams of the conference and how they are on a national level, and that's how you evaluate and judge the Power 5 conferences. And I think when you look at what UCLA and Oregon, we're going to talk about that next week, though. But I do think that the Big 12 replaces the Pac-12 as the afterthought of the Power 5 conferences. Okay.
Absolutely.
B. Holmes, we got to get into the Week 2 recap. So here's how we're going to do this.
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
We're going to revisit our bold prediction for Week 2. Okay. We're going to go over our weekend surprise, right? Like last week we did the same. That was when I got going about Michigan State. And then we are going to have our overrated overrated. So, bold prediction, we're going to revisit who our bold prediction was, how they fared out, our weekend surprise, and our overrated. And then we'll get into our true minute drill. So, I'll start us off.
Okay.
Because I've been dying to get to this segment, and I'll try to keep it quick to keep us on time. But my bold prediction, if you follow us on Instagram at Blue Bloods CGT for College Game Time, at Blue Bloods CGT, I put up my bold prediction. You saw my jersey. You saw the hat. I was even pulled out the Concord 11s just for this game. But I predicted a top 15 upset on ESPN, 6 p.m. Central Time, which was the Arkansas Razorbacks over the number 15 Texas Longhorns. They came to Fayetteville, and we put it on them, baby. Man, here's when you know you put it on a team when they come to your house. Is one trip to Fayetteville, one trip. Half the fan base is calling for Sark's job already. They're already calling for his job. We created a quarterback controversy. There is a quarterback controversy on Sunday morning in Austin, Texas right now. And then now the rest of the college football nation is questioning Texas's move to the SEC. Now, I just made the argument a second ago for A&M. I don't think that judging Texas's success in the SEC is fair to do just based off last night. But boy, I can't tell you, as a Razorback fan, dude, my group chats were on fire. I had a family group chat. I had a friend group chat. Man, we were just going crazy the whole game. And here's the thing, okay? I think there's 2 pieces to this. 1, Texas isn't as good as everyone thinks they are. Like, that's the same story every year, right? and I know I'm biased, and I know I'm a homer. Arkansas is a lot better than what the casual fan may know. Because if all you're looking at is recent history, going from the end of Bielema into the Chad Morris kind of disaster, into Sam Pittman's first year, we did a lot of good things last year that our record really didn't show. We had the toughest SEC schedule. We had a full SEC schedule, toughest schedule in the nation. Sam Pittman's first year doesn't get a spring. I mean, COVID just wiped everything out.
Right.
Well, he comes in and wins, was it 2 or 3? I mean, we hadn't won a conference game in nearly 3 years, and he came in and won 3. Really should have been more than that, because that Auburn game last year, we got screwed. And I'm not saying that as a fan. I mean, anyone can go watch and see the refs made the wrong call. But I just knew. And there's just something about Razorback Nation, man. When we are always ready for Texas. You can go back. Now, look, in the history books, they dominate the series because of all the Southwest Conference days when Texas was a dominant team. But here, since we've been in the SEC over the last 20, 30 years, you know, the times we would meet Texas, really going back to like the late 90s and early 2000s, like we were ready for them. Right. And I just knew last night it was – and getting to your point from last week, B. Holmes, you made a statement. You put it on Instagram. We had a little quote card with this where you were adamantly against neutral site games. And I got to say, I cannot imagine last night's Arkansas-Texas game being played on a neutral site.
Right.
Fayetteville was on fire. And it was so great to see that for the first time in years that it's been like that. So anyways, that's my bold prediction update. I had to get that off my chest.
Hey,
what you got for
people
us?
Don't even know. We were texting, and I was already like, he is going to go bananas tomorrow on the pod. Like I think that was the first thing I texted you. You are going to go bananas on the pod. So, man, my bold prediction, man, I'm sticking true Michigan man style. I'm hating, but I've said it. I said it week 0. I said it week 1. I told these guys, man, I've been saying it. I don't believe in Ohio State. Now, I didn't get to put it on IG. It's my girlfriend's daughter's birthday, so, you know, we had to celebrate the 10. So I didn't get to put it on IG, but I text you, and you can confirm it. I said Oregon was going to beat Ohio State. I don't like them this year. And this isn't Ohio State typical hate. This is just pure facts, man. I said it last week on the pod. It's on wax. I believe this is Ryan Day's first year where it's all his team. They don't have that Urban Meyer swag to them. I think they just have this belief that they can walk into any game and dominate as they did with Urban, but that's because Urban had these boys ready to play. I said that back end looked shaky, which Oregon exposed, not just through the pass game, but the run game. They ran the same sweep and off-tackle play over and over and scored. I mean, and here's the thing. Oregon shot themselves in the foot a couple times and maybe almost gave Ohio State enough the momentum to pull it out in the end, but I think what we saw, man, I was like, nah, I think, and I'm going to stand on this, Ohio State's going to get beat by somebody in the Big Ten, and here's why, Trey, and just, we got it on wax, so mark my words, and this is what I'm saying. They can't stop the run. They can't stop the run at all. So I am, like, super pumped about it, man. I'm super fired up. I think this is the year where the Big Ten looks completely different, and I don't think Ohio State – Could this be, I'm not ready to claim it, but could this be the end of the dynasty? Could this be the time that if somebody makes the right move, that they can take they can take the crown away from Ohio State? And I believe we are entering this season with that.
Can I comment on that real quick?
Yeah, go for it. Of course, man.
I think if there was ever a year for Penn State to win the conference and get into that CFP, this might be it.
This is the year, man. This is the year. But I think there's.
And by the way, B. Holmes, I did, for those watching the video version of this pod, I just found the text message and tried to put it up to the camera. I don't know how well it came through, but just to confirm that you did, even though you didn't put it on IG, you did predict Oregon over Ohio State.
Come on, man. I don't lie. So that was my bold prediction. It came through, man. I think the next one we got is the weekend surprise, man. Weekend surprise. I think I kind of just want to
go ahead and tell us yours.
Yeah, man. I'm already riding the high. Listen, guys. Listen. Now, if you follow me on Twitter at It's Real B Holmes, I went on a rant last night about Michigan football. Throw the ball, coach. Throw the ball, coach. Throw the ball. And this is what my weekend surprise, man, was how well Michigan football is running. They are running it down teams' throats. So after I went on my tangent last night, right, man, we're on prime time. I wanted us to light up the scoreboard, put 63 on them boys. But let's be realistic, Trey. A lot of teams can't score 31 points. A lot of teams can't score 31 points running the football with 44 yards passing. And this is what I've come to. I think Jim Harbaugh has finally figured it out. I think he's done trying to pretend. I think he's done trying to make everyone happy. I think he's doing what, and this is what Urban Meyer says, and I like Urban Meyer as a coach. He goes, you put your best 11 players on the field, and you put the ball in the hands of the guys that can win the game for you. And I think Jim just realistically just said, my two running backs are the best guys on this team now that my star receiver is out. We are going to ride them. And that's what Jim Harbaugh has always been, man. And from his Stanford days, from his San Francisco days, we're going to pound the rock, and then we're going to kill you off the play action. And last night in this after-the-game presser, he said it. He goes, I get it. Everyone wants me to throw the ball more, and we could throw the ball. But he goes, which is true, Washington had two NFL-caliber corners, and then they're playing a deep cover two. We're just going to keep running the football. And if you don't want to come stop it, we're going to keep running the football. And I'm going to say this. I've never seen, it's been a long time, Trey, since I've seen Michigan run for 300 yards plus in back-to-back weeks. And this is where it felt good. When I rewatched some of the highlights this morning. This is where it felt good, and it was the biggest surprise. I rewatched this drive where we ran the ball 7 times. 7 straight times. No passing, and scored a touchdown. And here's what I'm not saying we're here yet, but this is what I'm saying. There was a time in Alabama where Nick Saban did not throw the football recently, and he would just and I remember they would applaud it. Nick Saban doesn't even throw the football. He just runs it. So I'm not saying we're Alabama, but I am saying I think Michigan has figured out an identity, and that is the biggest surprise for me because we have been clamoring for that for 4 years, and we found an identity that works. So I'm putting the Big Ten on notice. I'm not saying we're going to win it, but I'm putting the Big Ten on notice. Everything in college football is momentum. Our boys are fired up. They're ready to go. And I think, man, we're going to run our way through this conference into like 9 or 10 wins. That's my biggest surprise.
Well, I noticed you just got a little quiet when I made my little comment about if there was ever a year for Penn State. So now it makes sense. Okay, now I was like, why is he getting? Oh, okay, Michigan. He's putting them on notice. Okay.
I think we're putting them on notice, man. We're putting them on notice. We'll see how I feel in about 3 weeks when we play Wisconsin.
Okay, weekend surprise for me. Hey, I'm gonna follow up on our HBCU.
Let's go.
Jackson State talking about. I'm gonna go Shedeur Sanders. He's obviously the son of Deion, Coach Prime. Last week in the Orange Blossom Classic down in Miami, their offense was stagnant. They couldn't really move the ball. They won the game 7-6. They relied on their defense pretty much the entire game. Shedeur didn't make any mistakes really last week, but he didn't make any plays really either. And so I know there was so much expectation on him. He just got his NIL deal with Beats. Like, all eyes were on him. And I'm sure this week, it was a make or break week for him. You really got to see how would he come out in this next game that they played last night against Eddie George's Tennessee State Tigers, which is another tough test for them. How would he respond? He came out last night, completed 75% of his passes for 362 yards and 3 touchdowns. That right there, man, that's a dude. If you can come back and respond to an adverse week like you had, your first ever game in college football with a game like that on the same type of stage. They were playing at what's the big stadium in Memphis, I believe, Liberty.
Oh no, they're in Memphis. They're in Liberty. I know what you're talking about. Stadium.
I mean, it was a heck of a game to start, and then Jackson State ended up beating them, I think 38-7 17 maybe.
It was a nice win.
He came out and really, really did his thing. And then I also want to shout out Shedeur Sanders, Shedeur's brother, Coach Prime's other son, plays on the other side of the field. Thank you for the retweet this morning. I've just somehow happened to capture. He's had 2 like what I call hit stick plays in the first 2 games. And last week I put one up on Twitter. You can follow me there at It's Trey Smith. And it started getting a lot of attention from the Jackson State fan base. And so he had another one last night where he forced a fumble. So I just happened to capture that one, put it up on my Twitter page, quote tweeted it with the other one, and was like, here's your weekly Shedeur Sanders highlight of the week. Hashtag the human hit stick. And he gave me a retweet on that one. And so that one's starting to gain a lot of momentum too.
Let's get Shiloh on the podcast.
That's what I'm saying. Let's get Shiloh on Blue Bloods College Game Time. I think we can make that happen. So, anyways, that's my week 2 surprise, and I'm gonna go into my overrated. Then you can go into yours, and then we'll hit the true minute drill. All right,
let's do it.
And this, to be honest with you, if you know me and have ever just talked college football with me ever, I always talk about how this team is overrated year in and year out, and that's none other than Notre Dame. Okay, they squeaked by Toledo yesterday by 3 points, and they'll still be ranked top 10. And here's what bothers me about Notre Dame. Okay, they could struggle their way to 3-point wins for the rest of the season. And if you look at their schedule, they got some teams that have a ranking next to them right now, but their schedule is not murderer's row by any stretch of the imagination. They could squeak to a 3-point win week in and week out, get to 11-0, 12-0, and they will still be in the college football playoff no matter what. I believe they would even get in over a team like Georgia, who I think is about to run the table, and then lose to Bama in the conference championship. So they would be 12-1 with their only loss to the number 1 team, because guess what? You're not beating Bama. So
you're not beating Bama.
I still think, though, that Notre Dame, I don't know if it's just because of their history. I don't know if it's because they're just one of the age-old blue bloods of college football. But if they just struggle their way to a win week in and week out, they're in. And it just bothers me. Now, with that being said, I don't think they win 12 games. No. I don't think they go undefeated, because even though their schedule isn't that tough, they are going to lose a couple of games this year. They'll probably still get 10 wins, after their bowl game and all that. But to me, that's my overrated team of the week. Who you got?
Man, my overrated. I actually came into the pod with one, but this is what I'm saying. Completely overrated in its entirety is the state of Florida right now. Miami came into the season ready to go. The U is back. They just got steamrolled by Bama. Week 1. Steamrolled by Bama.
Yes, they did.
And I have a friend, Edwin, who we text. And I said, man, I feel a little iffy about this Appalachian State game. And, I mean, they almost pulled off the upset. They just need to turn in the turnover chain, right? Just turn it in. Don't even put the turnover chain on anymore, man. You don't have the swagger for that. Now, the other team about the state of Florida that is overrated to me is Florida State. Now, we got on this pod last week. It's in wax, man, how excited we were for them. Me specifically. Is Florida State back? Man, they took Notre Dame to the wire. Oh, my goodness, this is about to happen. And then what happens? The play has went viral. Michigan had just finished. I'm getting ready to go to bed. I'm scrolling through Twitter, and I see not the perennial blue blood powerhouse of Jacksonville State to win. And an Hail Mary attempt. And then I listened to Norval's press afterwards, and he goes, we were going kind of like cover 2 and trying to send pressure, and that's why we're a little late to shift to prevent. I'm like, it's a Hail Mary attempt, Mike. Why are you not in prevent defense? So, man, overrated to me is the state of Florida every year. College football. Somebody from Florida, and the only team that's seemingly been consistently competitive, at least, it's been the Gators, and they're in the SEC.
Correct.
So, the state of Florida, man, they just disappointed, just overrated, and really overrated with all the talent that's in that state. You should not be as bad as you are, being a primary team in the state of Florida. So that's just my overrated chant for the week, man, the state of Florida.
Well, B. Holmes, I don't know if you could have set up this week's True Minute Drill any better. Do you want to bring us in? Because I'm going first this week. So do you want to set it up? What our True Minute Drill is going to be this week?
Our True Minute Drill is just what in the world is going on at Florida State. What would you say? What do you figure? What is your suggestion? Anything to help these boys get back on play. So what in the world is going on at Florida State is this week's True Minute Drill.
Okay, everybody knows the rules here, or you should by now. You start on the whistle, end on the buzzer. That's how we do the True Minute Drill. I am going to get this set up, and I am going first. True Minute Drill starting now.
Ready?
Okay, I'm going to bring them to church to figure out this solution to the Florida State issues. So this morning, actually, my pastor hit us with this right here. He said, breakthrough comes through dialogue, not monologue. Here's what I think the problem with Florida State is. There is a breakdown in communication somewhere in that program. I don't know if it's from players to coaches. I don't know if it's players to players. I don't know if it's coaches to high school coaches in the state. I don't know if it's coaches to admin, but somewhere in that university with that program, there is a breakdown in communication, and it's going to take a specific personality to come in and change that around. And I don't think Taggart had that kind of personality. I don't think Mike Norvell has that kind of personality. It's going to take a guy like Coach Prime, who the sail has gone off on that. The ship has sailed on that. Or someone like a Mel Tucker, someone like a Mario Cristobal, okay, at Oregon to make it happen. And guess what? I believe I'm over time.
Well, they were down in them. Boy, if Trey was about to preach, man, he's going to bring that Pentecostal out of me. Somebody need to pass the offering buckets over here.
All right, B. Holmes, you're up. Start on the whistle and on the buzzer.
Ready?
Listen, it's hard to follow up my preacher brother over here with what he just said. And here's what I'm going to say, man. I think Florida State has completely just missed it. The Coach Prime hire, I believe, was the best hire they could have made. For whatever reason, they didn't seem or feel like it fit. Could it have been he was just too much for them? The personality didn't fit within what brass liked. I don't know, and they missed. And I'm with Trey on this one at the end of the day. You got to find a guy, I think, where Florida State can figure out their identity of who they are. And you know what? You just said a name, and this wasn't on my original True Blue, but I think you go out and you send the Brinks truck to Mel Tucker at Michigan State. Even though he plays at a rival school, the dude is a winner. The dude is a culture changer. The dude can make people run through a wall. And I think Florida State needs that type of personality in this new age of the game, because you can't compete with Florida. You can't compete with the U and what they're known for. You go up to East Lansing right now and say, Mel Tucker, you'll be in Tallahassee next year.
That's
My
it,
time
man.
is up. I think, I know we're done. I think that's what they do, man, personally. I think that's what you do. I don't like he's at Michigan State. It makes me worried as a Michigan fan. But you go get Mel Tucker. I think the guy's probably going to be the hottest name coming up really soon.
So Florida State, holler at us, man. We can help you out. All right,
Hey,
we'll send you our fee. We'll send you our price, but just
put us on retainer.
At it's Trey Smith on Twitter. Brandon's at Real B Holmes on Twitter, correct?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Come find us, holler at us. We'll give you our fee, and we'll help you get things right over there. Find us if you're listening right now. Go find us on Instagram, man. We're putting videos. We're putting quote cards. We're putting all kinds of engaging content on there daily at Blue Bloods CGT. Obviously, if you want to interact with us personally, come find us on Twitter. That's where we're really engaging with people, and I mean, especially on College Game Day Saturday. Like neither of us shut up the entire day. So
we love it.
Come holler at us, work with us. B Holmes, that's all I got, baby. We got another episode down.
We do. Hey, last thing before we get out of here, guys. go find us on YouTube, man. True Blue Pod. You can look us up on YouTube. We are on YouTube now, so I know some people like to see our faces, see some of our reactions, man. Subscribe on us on YouTube. Subscribe on Apple Pods, wherever you get podcasts. Leave comments, leave reviews. Send this to a friend, man. We appreciate everybody that's supporting us. We think we got something really special in here. Trey, we got some special news. We got some guests coming up here soon, man. Like, we're taking this thing to a whole nother level. So thank you guys that always listening, but make sure find us on YouTube, find us wherever you find podcasts, share it with a friend if you like what you're listening, man. And thank you guys for joining us for another week.
Last night had me sweating, I couldn't believe it. It was college game time, a couple of blue bloods out competing. College game day Saturdays, big time players making plays. All I really need is another weekend full of back-to-back games, just me and my friends. Man, I love college, college football. I love March Madness.